What is going on, everybody? It is the Icebreaker here, back with another video, some more hockey content. And it is that time of year. I mean, we're getting pretty close to the regular season to begin in about get a month and a half from now, I guess, mid-October, usually when the season starts. So for this video, I'm going to give you my NHL 2022-2023 season award prediction. It's come across my channel before, and if you know me at all, I do like to pick some obvious ones, but I also like to get a little spicy, a little bold with some of these picks. So without further ado, let's just get right into the content, and I'm going to give you guys some players and who I feel are the leading candidates to win each of these NHL awards. To kick things off here, for the Art Ross Trophy, kind of an obvious pick here, but I'm going Connor McDavid. I just think he's the best player in the league, and he typically always leads the league in points. I believe on 4 or 5 of the 7 years he's played in the league, he's won the Art Ross Trophy as the league's leading scorer. So I see no reason why that shouldn't happen again, especially with the plethora of offensive depth that he has now surrounded him. Leon Draisaitl, Evander Kane locked up, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins as well, Zach Hyman, Jesse Puljujarvi. I just think they're a very deep offensive team. And I just think in that Pacific Division, they're going to absolutely pop off this season and be one of the better teams in the NHL. And I look at Connor McDavid obviously being a massive part of that, but typically speaking, always among the league leaders in points, if not the league leader in points. I see no reason why he should do that again. The Maurice Rocket Richard Trophy. This is the award awarded to the best goal scorer in the NHL who leads the league in goals by end of the season. And another obvious one here, I'm going with Austin Matthews. He had 60 goals last year, and I see no reason why he shouldn't hover around that again. And I see the Leafs having a very good regular season. I actually picked them to win the President's Trophy in my bold predictions. And obviously Austin Matthews is an elite player, one of the top 3 players in the NHL in my opinion. Best goal scorer in the league. I think he's established himself as that in the past 2, arguably 3 seasons. I think Ovechkin maybe takes a step back and starts to get older, but Austin Matthews I think is officially that guy. If you need a goal, he's the guy. I'll give it to you. Should hover around 60 like I said. And yeah, another obvious one, but I think he definitely should be the guy to win that Rocket Richard Trophy once again. The Ted Lindsay Award, this is awarded to the most outstanding player over the course of the regular season. And I guess this is kind of a cop-out once again, but Connor McDavid, I just think, again, the best player in the league. Typically guys who lead the league in scoring, barring some, outlier type of season, kind of like Austin Matthews, a 60-goal season doesn't usually happen as often in the NHL. So I understand why he won the Ted Lindsay, but typically it goes to the guy who always leads the league in points, and he's deemed the most outstanding in the regular season. So for that reason, I think Connor McDavid probably should have that trophy locked up. If not, he should be the favorite to win it. And yeah, another obvious one, but I'm going with McDavid once again. Moving on to one of the bigger awards, perhaps the biggest award. This is the bold take for me here. I'm going with Jack Hughes to take that Hart Trophy home. And I got a plethora of reasons why. First of all, I think Jack Hughes is going to have a absolutely dominant season if he is fully healthy, of course. But if he is, I expect him to have at least 100 points. I definitely think he is that guy. Another bold take here. I actually have New Jersey Devils making the playoffs, and obviously that would be a main reason why a guy like Jack Hughes could win the Hart Trophy, because I think he's going to be a massive reason why that Devils team takes another step forward and sneaks into the playoffs in the Eastern Conference. And by definition, I think that could make him the most valuable player in the league. Obviously, this is a very bold take. I think I'll probably be in the minority for this one. I don't think a lot of people will agree. They'll probably, kind of flame me in the comments, if they stumble across this video and they just like, what the hell? Why is Jack Hughes your Hart Trophy? That's kind of a joke. But you know what? If you know me, I'm not the type to waver from my bold predictions, so I'm going to stand on them, and I'm just going to go with Jack Hughes as a massive hot take. Leads the Devils to the playoffs and has a 100-plus point season, and as a result, takes that Hart Trophy home. Next on the list here, kind of sort of an obvious one as well, the James Norris Trophy, awarded to the best defenseman in the league. It's got to be Cale Makar, just because he is the best defenseman in the league. And I expect him to lead the defense in points as well. I know Yossi led the all defensemen. I think he had like 96 or 97 points. But Cale Makar, I just think he is that guy. I mean, he nearly had a 30-goal season. Led the Avs in scoring in the playoffs, and obviously en route to their Stanley Cup. But yeah, I just think he's a more complete defenseman. Especially last year, he took a massive step forward defensively. And obviously the offense is still there. He's probably still going to be a guy who's going to be over a point per game. And I could definitely see him being a guy who can put up 90-plus points and maybe like 25 goals again. I still think he has the potential to be a 20-plus goal scorer. So yeah, James Norris Trophy going to go to Cale Makar. Not a hot take, but I just think he's the best defenseman in the league, and he's going to win that award once again. All right, so now the Calder Trophy. This is the award that goes to the best rookie in the NHL, and for me, I'm going with Matty Beniers of the Seattle Kraken. I like what I saw from him in that 10-game stint this past season. He had 9 points in that span. I just think he has the ability to be one of the more elite players in the league down the line. But I think next season, you could see a guy like him kind of breaking out. I can legitimately see him leading the team in scoring. And if you check my Pacific Division rankings on the Seattle Kraken, more specifically, I did have Matty Beniers having 60-plus points and leading the Kraken in scoring. And I think 60 points could be enough to win you the Calder Trophy unless there's a defenseman out there who really shines out, has a great season. But I think Matty Beniers is among the favorites to win. You can throw in a guy like Mason McTavish as well, even Owen Power. Yeah, Owen Power can definitely win it too, but I'm going with Matty Beniers. I just think he's going to have the most dominant rookie season of that rookie class next year. For the Vezina Trophy awarded to the league's best goalie, I'm going with Ilya Sorokin of the New York Islanders. I just think already he is a top 5 goaltender in the NHL, and I don't think that's a hot take. He had an amazing year on an Islanders team that really couldn't give him enough offensive support and missed the playoffs by nearly 20 points in that Eastern Conference. And if you did see my predictions, I did have the Islanders making the playoffs and bouncing back. And obviously Sorokin's going to be a big reason why he's going to, tend the goal very efficiently, in my opinion. Should be a guy who has north of 925 save percentage, especially with the defense that the Islanders do have. Now, losing Barry Trotz, I don't know if that defensive structure kind of caves a little bit, but I still think Ilya Sorokin will be on his game. He's still relatively young at like 26 years old, arguably entering the prime of his career. So I expect him to have a big season. I think he could already be in the running for the Vezina Trophy, but I'm picking him to win it over the likes of Igor Shesterkin and Andrei Vasilevsky. Next up for my pick for the Selke Trophy that is awarded to the best defensive forward in the league, I'm going with Alexander Barkov of the Florida Panthers. Already an elite number 1 centerman in the NHL, and he's one of the better two-way players in the game. And he already has a Selke Trophy under his belt, I do believe. Obviously, there's a lot of guys you can throw in here. I give a shout out to Elias Lindholm, who was a nominee last year. I even like Ryan O'Reilly, too. I think he's a pretty underrated, especially defensively. And Patrice Bergeron, who may go down as the greatest defensive forward in NHL history. Honestly, I think they could consider renaming the trophy to the Patrice Bergeron Trophy. But anyway, I'm going to go with Barkov. Again, one of the better defensive forwards. I just think takes all the tough assignments as that number 1 center for the Panthers. And he's a reason why I still think the Panthers, despite having that rough offseason, I still think they're going to be a pretty good team. And Barkov is just going to, make an impact on both ends of the floor. For the Lady Byng Trophy, my pick to win it is Elias Pettersson of the Vancouver Canucks. Now, the Lady Byng Trophy is typically awarded to the most gentleman-like player on the ice. More specifically, it really caters to how disciplined you are, because you look at the past few years, it really just comes down to how many penalty minutes you have. Like a guy like Kyle Connor, who won it last year, he only had 4 penalty minutes. And a guy like Jacob Slavin, typically very well disciplined, one of the better defensemen in the league. And Elias Pettersson, over the course of his career, has been a relatively disciplined player. He doesn't really take a ton of penalties. I believe last year he only had like 12 penalty minutes, maybe 10 even. 10 to 14, I think it was around that range. But anyway, so I could see him, if he stays disciplined, he definitely should be in the running. And obviously he hasn't won it yet, so I wanted to pick somebody different other than the likes of Jacob Slavin, for example. So yeah, I went with Elias Pettersson, kind of a safer pick because he is pretty disciplined. But yeah, Elias Pettersson, my pick to win that Lady Byng Trophy. So for this next trophy, this could be a trophy that arguably not a lot of people would want to rank, but I wanted to give this guy a bit of a shout out here. So basically, the Bill Masterton Memorial Trophy goes to someone who has, a good perseverance and dedication to the game of hockey. And my pick is Sean Walker of the LA Kings, just based on his story. He had a really rough year last year, only played 4 games. And I believe he had an MCL or ACL injury. And those are really tough to come back from. And he missed basically almost the entire season. And before he went down with that injury, I considered him a very underrated top pair defenseman in the NHL. And I know when he was healthy, he could be someone who could hover around 30 points as well on that blue line for the Kings. I just think he's a very important piece for them. And I just think entering this season, I think it would be a great story if he has an amazing comeback season and returns to form and, be that steady top 4 defenseman that we all know he can be. So I think a guy like Sean Walker, I just want to give him a little bit of a shout out. I'm rooting for him to have a bounce back season, and I could see a guy like him being a favorite to win that Masterton Trophy. So next up for the Jack Adams Award, this goes to the best coach in the league of that season. I'm going with Jay Woodcroft of the Edmonton Oilers. Now, is he technically the best coach in the league? Probably not. But I just think the impact he had mid-season last year really turned that Oilers team around. And a big reason why they went so deep into the playoffs is because I think he is just a great coach. And I think especially this season, I think the Oilers are going to pop off. They're going to win that Pacific Division, be roughly a 110 to 115 point team in my opinion. And obviously Jay Woodcroft is going to be a massive reason why. I just think the Oilers are well coached under him. They're better coached under him. And obviously with all the players they have, I just think the Oilers will pop off and he will be recognized as the best coach in the league. All right, next I got the GM of the Year award. Obviously, it's kind of hard to argue against a guy like Brad Treliving, who, in my opinion, had an amazing turnaround of an offseason despite losing Johnny Gaudreau and trading away Matthew Tkachuk. But I'm going to go with Pierre Dorion of the Ottawa Senators. I just think overall, I do believe they are the most improved team in the league. You add Claude Giroux and Alex DeBrincat as well. I just think they're going to be one of the top offensive teams in the league. And I do believe they have an improved goaltending tandem now with Cam Talbot and Anton Forsberg, who's coming off a very underrated, solid year. And I just also, a big reason why I think Ottawa's GM and Pierre Dorion is going to win that award is because I have the Ottawa Senators making the playoffs. So I just think what he did in the offseason, I think it's going to be pretty prevalent what we see them be like on the ice, and I just think his impact definitely is going to go a long way to the Ottawa Senators having a very good season. So that's why I think he should be a leading candidate to win that GM of the Year award. Moving on to the William M. Jennings Trophy, I'm going with the Calgary Flames tandem here in Jacob Markstrom and Dan Vladar. Obviously, the Jennings Trophy goes to the goaltender or, goaltending tandem that allows the least amount of goals over the course of the regular season. It's more so a team award, I guess you can say, but for Calgary, I just think they are among the better defensive teams in the NHL. I just think their goaltending is going to be really, really good. I look at Jacob Markstrom. I believe he's a top 10 goaltender in the NHL. Despite the tough series he had against the Oilers, I don't really see why that would change people's perception. Yeah, okay, he's past 30, but I still think he's in his prime and is still a really good goaltender. And one playoff series does not define you as a goaltender. And as for Dan Vladar, if you watch my breakout player video for each team, I think Dan Vladar can have somewhat of a breakout season. Get more starts, I believe, for Calgary, and maybe they ride more of a tandem. We'll see, but I do believe Dan Vladar is due for a bit of a breakout year at only 25 years old. So I could see him having a great season and those two kind of coexisting, working together really well and just keeping pucks out of the net of the Flames. All right, so moving on to, these are all team awards at this point. So the President's Trophy, like I mentioned, I'm going with Toronto Maple Leafs. I just think they're going to have an amazing regular season. I look at them with all their, prior playoff failures, not being able to get out of the first round in quite a while. I just look at that as maybe those guys having a bit of a chip on their shoulder. I do believe they're already talented enough to be in contention for that President's Trophy. I mean, they were last year. They were the 4th best team. But I just think, they're capable of having well over 120 points, in my opinion. And I just look at them from a mental perspective. They need to really pop off in the regular season and, give them the best opportunity to advance in the playoffs, because a lot of people were, kind of bitching about the fact that, they had to face Tampa Bay in the first round and it wasn't a fair matchup because Tampa Bay is such a great team and they kind of, didn't quite luck out there. But there shouldn't be an excuse if they do go off in the regular season and they'll end up facing like a wild card team. There is no excuse at that point. So it's just time for them to really step up. And, if they want to advance in the playoffs, I could see this being a possibility as maybe going hard in the regular season and giving themselves that best opportunity. Moving on to the Prince of Wales Trophy, the team that I believe is going to come out of the Eastern Conference and represent the East in the Stanley Cup Finals. I'm going with the New York Rangers, kind of like what I did in my bold predictions. I'm not going to spoil it there, but I believe the Rangers just as a whole have the talent to be the best team in the Eastern Conference come June, obviously, when they get through the first 3 rounds of the playoffs. But I just really like their roster. They have a top 2 goaltender. I think their defense is going to be a lot better. Obviously, elite forwards, Their center depth's pretty good now with Mika Zibanejad and now Vincent Trocheck. You added that second line center hole. And of course, a lot of great wingers, Artemi Panarin being the most relevant name there, and other younger guys who have yet to really step up and I think have an opportunity to do so in Capo Caco and Alexis Lafreniere. I think the Rangers, they have all what it takes to represent the Eastern Conference in the Stanley Cup Finals. I mean, they went on a big run last year in the Eastern Conference Finals, so I could see them taking another step forward. I just think they're going to be a very dominant team and be one of the better teams in the league and just take a lot of people by surprise how deep they can go in the playoffs once again. Now, moving on to the Clarence S. Campbell Bowl. This is awarded to the team who represents the Western Conference and goes to the Stanley Cup Final. I don't know if this is a hot take. I do think a lot of people are probably going to say Colorado comes out of the West again just because of how deep they are and how dominant of a team. They just won the Cup last year. But I could see the St. Louis Blues making the finals. Even though they didn't have the greatest offseason, I still think they're among the deepest offensive teams in the league. And I don't necessarily hate their defense either, but especially their goaltending. I know Jordan Binnington has had his struggles. He's had his up and downs. But when it comes to the playoffs, Jordan Binnington always brings his A game. And when you look at last season, he was a big reason why they ended up beating the Minnesota Wild. Obviously, they were down 2-1 in that first round series against Minnesota. Ville Husso was in net. And as soon as Jordan Binnington took the starter's role, a switch flipped, and the St. Louis Blues ended up notching 3 wins in a row and advancing. They took on the Avs, and honestly, I thought they played them pretty well through the first 2 games, and then he got hurt. I believe it was game 3, maybe game 4, and even though the Blues, they did push it eventually to 6 games, but ultimately lost, I do believe if Binnington was healthy, I honestly could have seen the St. Louis Blues actually maybe upsetting the Avs. And if he is healthy, I could see that happening. Maybe that's another second round rematch and the Blues maybe take them down. So I could see the Blues having a very good playoff run and going deep. I just like their depth overall. And, if the goaltending stays healthy and Binnington plays the way he does, I don't think this is really out of the realm of possibility. But ultimately, winning the Stanley Cup, I do have the New York Rangers. If it came down to these 2 teams in the finals, I would take the Rangers. Although, you could argue that the Blues are deeper offensively. I think if it comes down to goaltending, I definitely would take Shesterkin over Jordan Binnington 10 times out of 10. Obviously, I really like both teams, and I think they could legitimately get far in the playoffs. But like I said, I just think the Rangers are the better team, so that's why I went with them to win the Stanley Cup, and it was part of my bowl predictions video. But I'm really high on the Rangers this year, and I think they're going to maybe surprise a lot of people. And I don't know if people think they're going to regress from that Eastern Conference Finals appearance, but I think in all likelihood, I think if anything, they're going to get a lot better just because they are still a relatively young core, and I can only see an upward trajectory, not a downward decline. And obviously, with the Rangers winning the Stanley Cup, you got to go with the MVP of the playoffs for that team, and it has to be Igor Shesterkin. Again, top 2 goaltender in the league. He won the Vezina last year, and if the Rangers are indeed going to win the Stanley Cup, it really does ride and die with Igor Shesterkin just because he is an elite goaltender, and if he struggles, I don't think the Rangers really have much of a chance to make it. But obviously, if he plays his A game, the game we know we can play, he's obviously going to be the main reason why the Rangers ultimately could win the Stanley Cup. So not really a hot take there. I mean, obviously there's a lot of great players on that team, but Igor Shesterkin simply is that guy. With that, that is going to wrap up my season award predictions for this upcoming NHL 2022-2023 season. As always, let me know your thoughts in the comments if you agree with these picks or if you disagree. Nice comments, hateful comments, I don't care. Leave them down below. I do not waver from that type of stuff. I will not nudge. I'm definitely looking forward to the challenge. If you guys want to challenge me on certain picks, obviously leave your own picks in the comments as well. And once again, thank you guys so much for watching. It was a lot of fun to do, and I will talk to you in the next video. I'll see you guys later.